Hi everybody, I'm Jolene Roelofse and I'm the Executive Director of the ACA and we are the proud owners of the Effie Awards, so I'm very excited to welcome you all here today. I'm going to play you a little video in a second, but before I do that, I just wanted to say that we are just so excited about the conversation today. It is a dialogue. So we really want you to participate and ask questions and answer questions and be part of the conversation. I will be introducing you to our board chair, Sharleen James, who's over there. But first I'm going to play you our little manifesto for the Effies, and then I'm just going to say a few quick thank yous, and then we can get going.
There's just some things you can't fake. Grit. Not as a trade, but as a persistent call. Ready to charge. Passion, attitude, determination. Not swayed by the whispers of doubt or despair. Not seeking the easy road. Not fearing the fight. Carving out the creative through the night. Making sure everything lends results wide. Craft. It's in the creativity, attention to detail, deliberate, thought through, designed to a T. Well executed, right messaging, striking visuals, targeted audience, understanding the rhythm, shaping the narrative, because effectiveness is imperative. Heart. The human truth, insight, pushing boundaries, back to the drawing board, again and again and again, until it feels right. Does it evoke emotions? Is it connecting deeper? Is it effective? The authenticity, sincerity, you have to feel it in the story. Results. The measurable impact of the work tied to the goals, the influence, growth in business, after effect, the likes, shares, clicks, KPIs, insights, and quality over pretty pictures. From lead gen to customer satisfaction, it's all about setting the global benchmark for excellence. Truth is effective marketing, always makes impact. So why fake it when you can show real results? Enter the Effies.
Yay! So, okay, a few very quick thank yous. Firstly, to our sponsors for the dialogue, to Discovery for this awesome venue. I mean, wow, what a building. And for all of the help with getting everything in and security and helping us set up everything. Thank you very much. We appreciate it a lot. To PepsiCo, Unilever, Two-Tone, Tiger Brands, Fast Grow Investments, and SAB InBev, thank you for your support for the dialogues. You will have seen that there are lots of things that the sponsors have set up for you outside, lots of treats, liquid ice cream, alcoholic. On that note, Discovery only allows 2 drinks per person, just want to say. And fatality, and snacks. So thanks again for all of that, and I mean there's been a hive of activity today with everybody setting everything up, and I have so far managed to resist eating the new flavour of Nick Nuts, but I'm not going to hold off for much longer. Also just to our Effie Award sponsors in general, to Nedbank, PepsiCo, SAB, AB InBev, Investec, Unilever, and GRB Insurance. We are very grateful for their sponsorship, and I think Charlene's going to speak a little bit more about it, but obviously the Effie Awards celebrates marketing effectiveness, and you know, it's a growing brand, it's a global brand, and I don't know if any of you have seen, but it's recently been acquired by the owners of Cannes Lions, so it's going places, and we're really looking forward to growing it in South Africa and through Africa. Lastly, a really big thank you to our secretary, to Snare. Where is she? She's gone. She's somewhere here. She's just like a super organizer, and we are so grateful to have her. So thank you to Snare. Also to Mel, Ash, and Sharon for all of the hard work you've done putting into this dialogue. To our agency, Lobengula, who's helped us with a lot of the collateral. Our PR agency, Twigger Communications, who's helping us drive everything through social media and making a huge difference. And then to our Effie committee for their input into and support of this dialogue program. So we are going to have another one this year, and we're going to keep growing them, so come back for more. So welcome, thank you very much, and I'm going to hand over to Sharleen.
I'm not as eloquent as Jolene is, so I'm going to not be speaking off the cuff like she does. But influencer marketing is not just a trend. It's a revolution in the way brands connect with their audience. In today's digital age, consumers are no longer just passive recipients of messages. They are active participants in the conversation. This is debatable. But in my view, influencers with their authentic voices and engaged communities have become a bridge between brands and consumers. So this form of marketing has evolved from a niche tactic to a cornerstone of modern campaigns. So driving not just awareness, but meaningful engagement and trust. It's no longer an option to not include influencer marketing. It's a necessity for brands aiming to remain relevant and to be impactful in today's fast digital landscape. So as we delve into today's dialogue, let's explore how this tool is reshaping our industry, supporting our campaign efforts, and ultimately driving the success for brands. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sharleen James, and I have the privilege of serving as the chairperson of the Advertising and Communication Association, or ACA, here in SA. And for those who may not be familiar with ACA, we are the stewards of the advertising and communication sector, dedicated to ensuring that our industry is not only well governed, but also continuously evolving and thriving. So one of our key roles is managing the prestigious Effie Awards, which celebrate the most effective marketing communication campaigns. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Effie Dialogues, a platform that we've created to keep our industry ahead of the curve, exploring trends, latest trends, market shifts, and innovation that are shaping the future of our work. So it is my honor to introduce you to our host this afternoon, Sibu. Did I pronounce it correctly? Mabena, the Chief Creative Officer of Duma Collective. Sibu is not only a dynamic leader, she's not just a dynamic leader in our industry, but an influential voice in her own right.
Yes.
So known for creativity and energy, she's the perfect person to lead today's panel discussion. From what I hear, you're in for a treat, and she's a true fireball. So on behalf of Jillian Rightford, CEO of the ACA, and the Effie's Dialogue Committee, I warmly welcome you all. I trust that today's discussion will be both inspiring and insightful, offering you valuable perspectives to take back to your own work. So enjoy the afternoon and the wisdom shared by this exceptional team.
Thank you.
Oh, Sharleen, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you to my boss ladies, Sharleen and Jillian. It's really incredible to be in this room. Thank you for taking time out to come and join us in this conversation. I really believe in dialogue and pouring into a knowledge bank, especially because this is an industry that we are all kind of learning to fly whilst the plane is in the air. Although influencer marketing has actually been around since time immemorial. Jesus had 12 disciples.
Yes.
And they were going around spreading the good news and influencing people into believing in what he believed in. So I don't think it's all that new. It's just that as an industry, as one that is commercially viable, as one that is contributing to the commercial success of the companies that some of us work for, the companies that we spend our money with, I think it is one that has the opportunity to benefit from conversations like this, where we evaluate what are we doing it well, and can we do it better? So we're here to discuss the effectiveness of influencer marketing, as you all have come to know, because that's why you're here. And before we kick off, I just want to do a survey in the room to check who actually believes influencer marketing is effective. And it's just a really simple question. Do you believe in influencer marketing? Yay or nay? Yes. Yeah, and hands are up. And for those who don't, I just want to look you in the eye. Please raise your hand. And I want him to explain exactly why he is saying what he's saying, because he's the data guy, he's the numbers guy. So this conversation and how we're going to run it, we're going to spend the first 45 minutes to an hour just digging into the insights of these thought leaders that we so very carefully handpicked and curated for this panel to be super diverse. But after that, I want to invite you all to contribute to this conversation. This is a dialogue for all of us to chat. We can bitch and moan about it, or we can be super productive with the mind to be constructive and build on this industry and contribute to the knowledge bank around it. So can we have an agreement that we are here to contribute, all of us? If you are in agreement, look to your neighbor and say, neighbor, I am here to contribute. Thank you very much, because when you walk out of number 1 Discovery Lane today, you're going out there to influence an entire industry on all of the things that we think should be done better. So I'm going to hand over to my panelists to very, very quickly introduce themselves and kind of give us a reason for why you're here. And Snare, whilst we're at it, please remove my face from the screen, because people are going to take a lot of videos and post them all over social media. So be like, why is this lady on the screen? I'm going to start with Bianca. Please tell us why you are here. Zazise, Machiga, go.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I know it's like mid-afternoon, so thanks for making the time to come through. I'm Bianca Sibiya. Been in the marketing space for the longest of time, and I'm here more because of the last 2 years of my time at TikTok. I was head of Africa operations. And I guess a lot of the conversations that we'll have today is around effectiveness of platforms and how we can optimize those as marketers. I also run a business called the Fixer Coalition. And essentially, we are a service provider to brands and agencies to be able to leverage better storytelling, better content marketing, better social selling, as it were, because we're moving into such a great space where we're leaning more towards alternative ways to be able to sell products for brands. So that's some of the work that I do. And outside of that, I am an ADHD, late diagnosed woman. I'm a mom, and I'm very passionate about how we grow South Africa and the continent and how we package our stories so that we are really making an impact for the people that we're trying to reach on a day-to-day basis.
I believe you. You're a good seller.
Hey.
I do believe you. Jolene, the master event organizer around the business of influence. Talk to us, please.
Jolene Roelofse, founder of, just have to think about that, Fluence Africa, but also founder of the first and only Influencer Festival in Africa. We believe at Fluence Africa that we serve 2 clients. There's the influencers on the one side, and it's the clients on the other side, and we basically form the bridge. We're the conduit between the 2. I'm very passionate about building the creator economy in South Africa. So it's not just about driving effectiveness in marketing for brands, but it's also how do we develop individual brands with each of the creators that we work with.
Amazing. It's not like people aren't reading it behind you. It just sounds better when it comes from your mouth. So, Anele, please tell us about how you go around spending money on influencers.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Barely.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I'm Anele. I am the PR lead at Unilever for the beauty, well-being, and personal care categories. And I'm passionate about spending money in my personal capacity as well. And I'm passionate about beauty. You know, I really love beauty. I think it's so fun in South Africa because we have so much diversity, and you can really play around with what beauty is. As you know, someone who's in this space, I'm passionate around storytelling, driving conversations, and building relationships. And I think sometimes we forget that influencer marketing, you spoke about Jesus and the disciples, is about building relationships, and it becomes very transactional and sometimes one-sided, you know, either way. It's either the influencer is holding all the power, the brand is holding all the power. And I think for me, it's really always about building the relationship and making sure that there is mutual value exchange. Yeah, that's me.
Incredible. And at some point in the conversation, we're going to dissect how the audience actually holds the real power, right? So Ryan, the numbers guy, the one who no one can lie to, be like, wow, I'm so popular. Like, really? Talk to us about what you do.
Tell my kids that. Good afternoon, everyone. So I somehow very quickly have established the title is I'm not being able to manage a mic. On the top, and we're not there. This one's off.
Is it on?
1, 2, 1.
We can't blame load shedding.
Look at the collaboration happening in real time.
1, no, now it's off. Now it's red.
Ryan, you want to come to the podium?
1, 2, okay.
There we go.
Progress. Okay, so I've now broken 2 marks in 2 seconds. There we go. So my name is Ryan Sauer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a business called Redwood Analytics. We are a data analytics firm for marketing agencies and brands. I'm an ex-agency person myself for 14 years, and I left that to focus purely on analytics and measurement and effectiveness of marketing efforts that we are all trying to achieve. And so I've come to this panel as I would. I've come with I wanted to understand kind of the definition first and foremost. So we're here to talk about the effectiveness of influencer. So for me, effectiveness is a predetermined goal or outcome that you're trying to achieve, which requires you to have a measurement. And I think that measurement can be defined as many things. It can be reach, engagement, conversions, sentiment. There's many ways to define a measurement. So maybe we'll get more into that later. And that's one of my exciting parts of being part of this forum and being here with you today is to discuss that. And I just wanted to actually ask one or two questions of the audience.
Go ahead, take over.
Thank you very much. This is a rapid fire thing, so I just want to check all your hands are working. Can everyone raise one of their hands? Quickly, speed. Yes, up, all down. Everyone, everybody. So who here is an influencer? Some?
You all
No?
came.
Okay,
You are
3, 4.
influenced by me.
Cool.
You came.
Who here is from an agency? Okay, who here is from a brand? Who here is just here? That's a couple of you. That's cool. Yeah, then who misunderstood the brief and don't know why they're here? Okay, it's fine. Just interesting to see whose agency, whose brand, and few of you see yourselves as influencers, funnily enough, but maybe we'll discuss that as well. Yeah, so that's me. I'm excited to have this conversation, talk about what effectiveness looks like, and how influencers achieve that.
Incredible. Thank you, co-host Ryan Sauer. Ofentse, or are you Primo? Please let us know so we can respectfully address you today.
So today I'm wearing a collar amongst people with collars, so it's Ofentse. But on social media, I'm informally known as Primo9teen, Primo. I'm known as Brown to Man. I'm known as Your Spirit is Half Naked. And yeah, I think basically this whole panel discussion is going to be about me. I'm the influencer that's going to be marketing a lot of the things here. So yeah, I am a comedic content creator, advertiser. 288,000 on Instagram. I have 1.2 million on TikTok.
Ooh,
in case no one knows. And I'm here to bring the inside perspective as to how it is to, you know, be the one in front of the camera. Because I feel like as an influencer, you end up representing brands and everything. You become the face for that couple of seconds. And yeah, I like the fact that it says beyond the hype. Because people think it's so glamorous and so hyped up to be a social media content creator and things like that. And I think I'm also here to just mainly convey the message that a beautiful garden requires a tired and dirty gardener. So yeah.
Hey, you're powerful. No? We didn't know you're so deep because you're just funny.
Yeah, I get I'm funny. I want them to take me seriously. Some bars.
Okay, so now that we know who we're talking with, I think the conversation for me needs to be one that comes from an honest place. We're really not here to be diplomatic about things. Give us the
tired gardener view of all your different jobs that you perform in the ecosystem. And this is really for us to kind of walk out of here with a more constructive view of this industry, because there are a lot of people out there who think it really is just about hype. And I think with this knowledge sharing, once we get into each other's shoes and we understand each other's pain points, we have a little bit more to offer in terms of the good PR around influencer marketing, because it can really be a commercially successful industry for influencer or brand or other participant in the ecosystem. So with that, Bianca, having come from the platform side of things, and you guys already know the questions, so if I veer off my questions, it's the dialogue, okay? So TikTok really came in and shook things up. We were fine with Facebook, actually, we were fine with MySpace, and then it was BlackBerry, and then it was Facebook, and then it was Instagram, then Twitter. And just when we thought we cracked it, like, yo, trend armies, we're trending, now we're buying trends, TikTok came and just shook the whole world. And everybody who was anybody who decided they want to have influence over something had it readily available to them. You were part of that growth. You were seeing that growth in real time. Talk to us about how what you saw in that space at that time is the result of where our influencer marketing industry is now.
I think if you just look at the last 2 to 3 years and the growth of TikTok on the continent, and I think just for context around numbers, the average person in South Africa spends about 90 minutes a day on the app. That's like an entire movie just to consume content. They log and open up the app around 6 times a day. And as, I guess, a marketer, the opportunity there is also understanding how do you start working with the behaviors of consumers over the course of the day, and what does that mean in terms of how you start to develop your strategies in order to land those messages. What's really powerful about the app specifically is that the algorithm is so smart. You know, it really listens to all of your movements that you apply within the app, every comment you make on someone else's post, however long you watch a video for, whether you drop off on the first 6 seconds versus when you watch the full 1 minute, it calculates all of the information and it starts to basically curate a very bespoke expression of what it will then serve you. That For You feed is so powerful. And I think Primo will talk to this because he did the most during COVID, and that's how he managed to build up his profile so quickly. The most important thing, I guess, is, and I guess the success of the platform for both creators and viewers is the importance of niching down. And by that, I mean having an identity in terms of what you want to speak and land as a creator on the platform is very important. One, the algorithm identifies you as a creator to say, you know what, you're great at comedy, you're based in South Africa, you have engagement because people are posting comments. They want to see more about your content. They're saving your videos, they're bookmarking it, and they're sharing it, they're forwarding it on. The algorithm collects all of that information and basically gives you a very better understanding as a creator as to how to optimize that, and that pushes your content onto the For You feed. The other thing is consistency. So posting regularly is so important. And again, it's just about how you are utilizing that as a brand. So the same mentality should apply in terms of how we show up with different products that we want to surface on the platform. So it's storytelling, it's consistency, and it's engaging with your audiences, which is the most important thing. Those comments are jewels for marketers. So as much as we are putting information out all the time and we're trying to tell people, buy this cream because it's got hyaluronic acid and it only costs you 64 Rand that you can buy it at clicks, what are the people saying in the comments about the product? That's the stuff that you need to start leveraging. The platform is free, it's organic, we need to be using it.
So what do you say to the marketers who get told by their agencies that best practice is 4 posts a week and you have run out of hours for community engagement? And I'm getting personal because we can, right? As someone who comes from the platform, who understands where the success, where the tips and tricks for success are, what do you say to those people who come with the best practice jargon? And I think I'm also going to swing it to Ryan because you've actually got the numbers on what best practice looks like.
Well, I guess the objective for the brand is, are you playing a long game or are you playing a short game? If you put budgets aside and understanding that you are trying to make sure that you're captivating and building a community, that comes with understanding that you're working with your agency partners to be able to say, how do we effectively deliver this on a long-term scale? Is it just a seasonal thing? Are you just doing it for the summer? Or is this like a 3-year strategy where you're trying to basically say, as part of the partnerships that we have in place, yes, there's a retainer, yes, there's KPIs, how are we working together to make sure that we are fully educating each other about how best to use the platform? I did a lot of work with a number of different brands in the telco space, as well as the likes of Coke, for example, where we sit in a room with creators and we receive the briefs from them to get an understanding of what they're trying to achieve. So it's not just about, yes, we have 800, 800,000 rands worth of billable hours that you have to use within the space of 2 months.
Wow,
And once that's
800,000 in 2
finished-
months?
I'm just saying hypothetically. I know I threw that number out. But the point is, how do you make sure, as a brand with your partner agencies, that you are playing a long game? Because I think at the end of the day, yes, the content has cost implications, but then how are you leveraging the likes of creators to be able to continue that conversation beyond the TV ad, beyond the billboard, beyond the radio ad, to make sure that they're carrying on that conversation for you that doesn't require extensive amounts of community management, for example?
Okay, so Ryan, with that said, where brands are spending copious amounts of money versus those that aren't, in your world where the data actually matters, how are we measuring the effectiveness of the spend on the different platforms?
I want to answer that question, but I want to go into a different, more...
Go ahead, co-host.
Co-host. What I'm seeing is a slightly more endemic challenge around this. So you want to get to what you measure and what's effective. I have some concerns around, to your point, around short-termism, campaign-driven influencer work, and I think there's some other challenges that we have at the moment. So if influence is part of a larger omni-channel integrated campaign and it's treated as just another channel, I often see from the clients we work, the brands we work with and the work we do in the measurement is that it's given the same effort in input rather than holding proper sessions to brief and manage. It's another channel, right? So this is a creative, here's the brief, we're gonna farm 6 influencers, we're gonna tell them to post roughly like this, we're gonna make sure they're on point, and then they're gonna produce and push out.
Oh, and Creative X is going to be involved in that system as well.
And you must drop this, and then they overmanage the influencer's content, and then you lose the authenticity, and then what is measurement and what is success? Yeah. And so it's another channel in an omni-channel strategy to enter an award, to go, and there was influencer, right? There's that challenge. Then I think there's the challenge with the macros and the nanos, and a lot of people are moving to a multi-nano environment and then briefing them the exact same way and assuming that they're all going to produce, manage, measure, and report back the same way.
All 100 of them.
All 100 of them for a price point that you're going, that's a lot of work for that price point, but we've got 100 of them. So I think that there's a challenge on the deviation of standard because of the nature of mass nano influencer campaigns with the high budget up top, but very low in terms of execution. And so I think we have a challenge there. And then the last piece where we're trying to measure effectiveness is in this concept of the authenticity. So authenticity is where you get trust. Trust is where you get that engagement. And authenticity comes from, and I was talking to someone about this, and I loved what he said. He gave me an equation, and I love equations. And for him, authenticity was empathy plus time plus engagement.
Sure.
So and empathy, in many cases, to comedic influences, empathy is for me, one and the same as humor and comedy. And I think some of the most successful influencers from a performance perspective that I've seen are influencers that lead with a comedic component because it's something that we can empathize with very easily. So the campaigns that I've measured that are effective have humor baked in. Well done.
Primo, Ryan points at you, says well done, because you seem to have cracked the code of the authenticity brand. But we were talking before this and saying there's the content that you self-produce on your cell phone, and then there's the content that you collaborate with a brand to produce, super high-res, super hygienic. and you have a comment on the results of that, the difference between the two types of content pieces.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing you need to realize is the relationship the audience has, not only with you as a creator, but with the content you produce. People want to look on their phones and see something relatable, not something overly produced. So most of the time when it's overly produced and the brand itself is the one that took it upon themselves to shoot, edit, bring their big cameras and intimidate us like we don't know what we're doing, that's when I feel like their backing is needed. That's when ad codes from TikTok have to be implemented where, they must now take it out of their budget to externally boost it, because these people are only watching me because I make the most out of the least. That's part of what keeps them here, is seeing me in my house, but I've been advertising 5 different products from 5 different industries in this exact same space with one phone, and they relate and laugh and engage every single time. So part of the trick is keeping it as natural as possible, as relatable as possible. And I like to look at, when you talk about humor, you talk about empathy. I like seeing empathy as relatability. I like to see where you empathize with the other person and where we relate in turn with that, and what then that can become. It's this thing that we're talking about, authenticity and trying to remain authentic. Top line alignment kind of takes care of authenticity. There's already a big, if I'm trying to align with something people already see me working with a lot, it's already going to be easy to talk about that thing. Whether if the messaging that you guys have is a little bit slightly off, I can always bring it back because it's something I use. And it's something these people know that I'm going to use anyway. So I definitely want to say, if you are going to add the professional content, please be ready to back it up.
Okay, Austin is smiling. Can you see Austin Malema there?
You better smile.
But RTC Studios with his cameras. He's just like, yo, don't take food off my table, man. But you've got authentic content, fine. You shoot it with your phone, fine. Or you shoot it with high-res cameras, fine. And then the comments, people are commenting on your T-shirt or your fit instead of what you're selling them. Or people are commenting about how you said something so funny, but not actually about what you were selling. So how do you measure success in the campaigns that you do?
I think that's still success either way. I have certain tips and tricks that I use too. Sometimes you'll aim for reach, sometimes you'll aim for engagement. Appeal is different. I don't want to name brand names and stuff like that, but there's an Android phone that, and...
Is it from China, from Korea?
It's not.
From Asia.
And you already selling Android is already, you're not going for aspiration. You know that. So you don't...
Sorry guys,
to everyone
with an Android phone.
I know there's Samsung is...
Very.
So you know already that there's one big guy, that everybody aspires to, and then the rest become more functionality, the rest become more efficiency and things like that. Battery life, whatever the case may be. And you'd rather aim for reach than rather aim for engagement in that sense, because the reach is going to be about who sees it, because I'm not targeting the people that are going to want to buy it right now. A lot of the people that are not going to want it, but if it moves further than it needs to, then the people will get to it. When I made the content for that specific brand that I won't name, there was certain things that I did in there where the messaging is not what I want people to take, but the catchy parts that I wanted that are going to make it spread is what I want them to take. So they must see this thing and they must familiarize themselves with this brand of phone and say, hey, God, there's someone who spoke about it, even though I don't know what they said about it. I'll look at it first. So trying to go for top line, top of mind, rather. So I did a little trick where the phone was the focus every time and the information about the phone. But the funniest part about the phone was the ringtone. And people are like, hey, I will buy this phone if it comes with this ringtone. It probably won't, but You spoke about that phone and you sent someone that thing because that ringtone was funny. Yeah. Now that name and Primo being associated with that name kind of aligns to that. So my success then becomes, aren't you the guy that did the what? Then that kind of becomes the engagement I get. The reach was on social media, but the engagement is personal.
So you're driving consideration, you're driving awareness, and that's a metric that you value. But then, and Anele has a KPI of sentiment or sales or
Brand
what are people?
salience.
I want to layer sales. I think we need to be very clear to our marketing clients. There's salespeople and there are marketing people. Understand? We can't do it all, guys. Not with the time you give us, not with the budgets you give us. So we also have to be clear when we're setting out the campaign. Yes, agencies want to clap, say, yeah. We say, hey, we are brand awareness people, not sales, right? However, at the end of the day, as marketing custodians, you've got people you report to say, okay, Primo was funny, but how did this sell me one more cell phone? And that's where your life becomes difficult, Anele, as someone who manages budgets, wants to spend them with people, wants to create content, wants to tell stories, wants people to relate to the brand, etc. But you guys as Unilever take a long-term view. It's really not flash-in-the-pan stuff. We've seen people you've used for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years now. What is the thinking behind that to say, it might not sell me another bar of Dove today, but somewhere down the line, which is what Bianca spoke about, there is actually a science to the madness.
Yeah. So I spoke about relationships, right? And I think any good relationship is built over time. And where you have seen ineffective influencer marketing is where we have come in as a brand and we expect to see results from a Primo in 6 months, in 12 months. That's the first thing. What I've also now done from a PR perspective, I think sometimes we want to have the digital only as a channel. And I think how you support your influencer, how you drive the credibility, how you drive the believability is also using them in different channels so that it doesn't just become, oh, that's the influencer. And they only are a custodian of the digital and online conversation. And that's when you will see the translation into sales, right? So we have collaborated with retailers. I'm not going to mention the retailer, but we would do an activation in store. You can invite the influencer to come in store, to invite the audience, to come and do a meet and greet. We do international trips where we'll do immersions with our global teams, and the influencer can actually bring their audience on that journey. So it doesn't feel like the only time this person is telling us about Dove or Vaseline is when they want us to buy something, right? So even the audience needs to be part of the journey and the relationship that you are building with the influencer. Yes, the influencer is the conduit, but how can we delight the audience? Can we get a magazine cover of the influencer? Can we invite some of the followers to come to the launch party? So for me, it's always about figuring out, leveraging the community that this influencer has. How can we make them part of our community in a way that is authentic and we're not always connecting to a sale? There is a strategy that will link to a sale in store, but how can I also provide value not only to the influencer, but to the audience and the community as well? I think that's good PR.
So when you look at your agency ecosystem and the people that help you achieve these objectives, how do you kind of motivate them or galvanize them to work together where, for example, an influencer may not help the media team achieve their KPI, at first thought, but if they were to work with that influencer, they might right? Just because you guys do it very effectively. You're using people through the line. What are you saying to your agencies to say, guys, work together? I've got a client sitting here who likes to say, a good idea can come from anyone in the room. Like an idea for media can come from the PR person. An idea for PR can come from the event execution person. How do you guys do it at Unilever? What's your approach to it?
I mean, I manage beauty, but I was just in a call today with the home care team, right? And I think with any great company, you need multi-team collaboration across categories. And it also benefits the influencer when I can leverage my relationships internally to say, we can also bring you into these brands. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, right? I don't think you have to do a lot of convincing to say, let's work together. And I think sometimes influencers have this misconception that we have these big budgets, we have so much support internally from global, from our, brand teams. And the reality is that we actually have to fight a lot of battles for these ideas to come through. We have to protect the autonomy of the content creators. We have to drive that creativity as well. And where we get a no, in this instance, I have to figure out, okay, where else can I use this individual? Because I'm guarding the relationship. And I think sometimes that's missed where, the brand can become the person that is demonized. You want people to work for nothing. We want to be prescriptive around briefs. We don't want to foster creativity. And that's not the case at all, because a lot of the times we consume the content and we want to see amazing content, right? But we're working within certain restrictions and guardrails. And I guess for me, as we talk about effective communication, I would like to see a little bit more of that understanding from the influencer side as well. Because, no, for real, for real. We're talking about what do we need to say to our agencies to get everyone to work together to drive the results. Sometimes really it is a understanding from the influencer that we are going on a long-term journey, we are partnering, but it's give and take. You're also gonna have to give.
Sisters, can I just...
Come on, I'm ready for you. I'm ready.
And we're going to get, that time will come. The time will come.
We get hot emails. It's like, no, guys, we're fighting as well. Like, we really are fighting some battles, and there's not as much money as you think there is.
Yeah, but
Sisters, you guys have massive budgets. But one thing I can say is most of the time where I feel like we can get lost between us two, from the brand being the big boy and from us being looked at as the pawns running around, is that we also need to be treated as such. A lot of the time the brief comes to us and it's very simplified. So we feel like you want some simplified content. Sometimes you guys are intensively short term. But it's not explained to us that, the frequency is only this high because we want to squeeze in this thing for the next 3 months so that we drive this, and then from that we will do this. So a lot of the time we have problems with deciphering that brief, and then this whole thing of creative freedom comes in, where how you brief me determines my range of freedom. Those are my bounds that I can run into. So if you're not briefing me well enough, it's very easy for me to step outside of the wall and give you something that doesn't engage the way you see it. Or you say, I gave this guy 50,000 rand for one post, and he came back with 5,000 likes. You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy for it to be a briefing issue, where we are not seen as people who can understand the same way an agency understands,
So there's a breach in the effective communication between the different people in the value chain. And Jolene, you run an entire festival around some of these things. And these are issues that come up. But please just expand on what are the trends, in the conversations that are happening? What has come up the most around the challenges influencers or creators face in being able to deliver effectively for their clients?
I think the biggest thing that comes up again and again, exactly what you were saying, the short-sightedness and the short-term relationships, transactional relationships that brands tend to have with influencers. Briefing is definitely an issue as well. I think where, I don't know if my mic is still working, yeah? What will work well is if the creator is treated as part of the team. Now, in order for creators to be treated as part of the team, they need to be given the bigger picture, right? Brand then also needs to invest in a long-term relationship with a creator. The benefits with that is that if they work with a group of creators over a longer period, which Unilever has done quite successfully, and a number of other brands as well that we've worked with, McCain is one of them, we've actually seen huge results in the long term, is it drives brand love, drives brand trust, and it drives brand salience, specifically with the audiences of the influencer. So the influencer then, the longer you work with a brand, the more you pick up on certain nuances, the more you pick up on key messages, just becomes natural. You know, so it doesn't feel when you shoot content that it's another ad. You know, it's all stilted and they look awkward and, you know, they're trying to deliver the right key message, you know, because, you know, it's got to tick a box, etc. And you know, and you lose the magic of the storytelling and the creators and the reason why you work with a specific creator. You know, we get requests for, we want to work with XYZ. And we brief them, clients excited, creators excited. Then first draft comes through and the client's like, so it's not like the usual work. Well, it's because you've overbriefed. Yes. You've given them a stringent list of the do's and don'ts, and you've not allowed them creative freedom.
And you've given them 24 hours to turn around the content.
Exactly. It's because editing takes 2 hours, right? I'm guilty of that, sorry.
But with all of that, Jolene, and all that you've observed, you've created an entire festival, an entire event around this. What about the size of this market drove you to do that? What is it that you're seeing in how big the influencer content creator space is that said, I can actually make a whole lot of money from telling people, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you should do right, etc. How big is this market really?
I wish I could make a lot of money from it. But the reason why I actually started the festival was since we started the agency, we've always worked with nano and micro-influencers. Because for us, that is your by word of mouth marketing. And I've always seen it as, because they drive both reach and they drive engagement, and you can work with some macro influencers as well if you want to drive bigger reach. But where we've seen the gap is that a lot of these, especially the Gen Z creators, don't understand the world of marketing. Yeah. Now, we see influencer marketing not as just a box that you tick. It's actually should be part of your marketing strategy. It plays a supporting role in supporting all of your marketing channels. So it plays a role in your out-of-home, your radio, your TV, you know, above the line, below the line, digital, etc., PR. It shouldn't just sit in PR, shouldn't just sit in digital. It should sit across all of the marketing channels, right? What that then means is when you bring in an influencer, some of them have never worked in a corporate environment. They don't know marketing. They don't understand it. They don't understand the role of it. So that's how we've started the festival, to explain that to them. What is marketing? Therefore, what is your role as the influencer? If they understand that and they understand the role that marketing plays in driving business objectives, then it changes how they think about how I shoot and create my content. You know, why key messages are important. I think the biggest reason, actually, why we started the festival is to make them understand campaign timelines.
Just the basics of how things work.
Exactly. Just understand the business. Understand your role. You're a pig in a big machine, but if you understand how important you are as a pig, then it makes the briefing easier. It makes the brand trust, etc., and everything else a lot easier as well.
So creators and influencers, celebrities, etc., don't necessarily understand the world of the buyer. The buyers don't necessarily understand the world of the creators, the influencers. Big misconceptions, lots of them. Everybody thinks this of the other person. So Ryan, in your world, what are some of the biggest misconceptions you've observed with the clients who now have spent, like we spoke earlier, so much money on a campaign and it's just not giving them the results? How do you make it make sense to them?
I was hoping you were going to ask me that, because as you were talking, I was like, I want to speak. I want to speak. So I think there's a misalignment. So, like, you talk about the Gen Zs not having the marketing fundamentals. And I think we're missing some structure literally in structure. Awareness, engagement, consideration, conversion. KPIs.
Wait, say that again. Someone pull out your phone, capture that, because
So
there's a science to it.
That marketing funnel of awareness, engagement, consideration, conversion, understanding the key performance indicators and the metrics and the benchmarks that you're going to set against each of those in the funnel, the message you're briefing the influencer to communicate, and what you really expect out of it. And so I love that meme, that David Beckham and Victoria Beckham thing, where she goes, we're doing an awareness campaign and we're just trying to use influencers to get reach. And he's like, be honest, we're driving a performance campaign and we just want leads. And you're like, so my concern is that
That's an agency joke. Agency
That's an
people
agency
get that.
joke.
Everybody else just like, what?
Funny agency joke. And I think that is the challenge that we're dealing with, is that you've got this performance KPI being briefed into what I consider in many cases to be a much higher up part of the funnel for awareness and maybe consideration. Engagement maybe. Awareness, engagement, consideration. But I mean, in preparation for this, at one point I stalked your Instagram profile, and you had a UTM URL for a Showmax click-through, right? And I don't know. Sorry, this is exactly what was on your profile.
It's fine.
And I'm interested to know if the brief there was, we are going to measure the effectiveness of your content or your brand as an influencer by how many people sign up for Showmax, or how many people you tell us clicked the link, or how many people just visited the Showmax site and saw our price options. And I think the other challenge that brands don't get is the minute you click out of a native platform where someone is creating and engaging content to something else, the drop-off rate is going to be monstrous.
Absolutely.
The engagement happened. The person clicked. What happened next into your fancy website where you take them on a journey and they're like, this is taking data, I don't have data, I'm out of here. And it's loading a site with some fancy wheel and they're like, oh, we didn't get the leads. Well, of course you didn't get the leads. No one wants to leave a native platform of a funny piece of content to click out to something, then you're going, oh, this is your purpose campaign. And while I get that, I just don't think it drives purpose or performance. So, sorry, going back to my question to you, and you don't have to share the numbers, but when that brief came through, did Showmax go, we're going to pay you to get us sign-ups for Showmax? Or they're going, I know what we're doing here. We're hoping that the extra bit that comes out of this is some performance.
Answer that without breaching your NDA contract that
Yo,
you
I'm
signed as an
thinking
influencer,
so hard about what I'm
collaborator,
going to say
content
next.
creator. Lots of people here. No, but please do try to answer in a generalist context where you've had different campaigns or kind of ask a conversion job of you.
One, two.
So I think more than anything, they don't explain to us which side they want us on. So a lot of the time when they ask us to put their website on there, they're seeing how good the first video went and say, okay, Sharp, we need to convert these views. You know, because I mean, this campaign specifically with Showmax, I did it with my dad. And I kind of think they were doubting how much potential how much attention me and him could create. And the moment the first video came out, and within the first day it had over 100,000 views, they were like, okay, Sharp, we need at least someone of these views to be clicking something and going somewhere to look at the price. Yes, we're speaking about it, but I think they get scared that people are focusing more on what's happening in the video than the product that's being sold. So then I realized that they asked for that after the engagement of the first video, and they said, okay, we've got 3 more videos coming. We've got 3 more videos to capitalize on. We'll hopefully get something. And that's the problem. They don't brief us properly. Now you just come to me and say, we just want this. I'm going to say 20,000. 20,000.
I'm coming to that question about pricing
Yes.
and how you guys arrive at these costs
Yes.
that you are putting out there. Into
Yes.
Because
Oh,
I want to tell you, APCC and Yardstick don't believe us. They really don't believe us. Uguti, why is Primo this much and this one? So, but with that, now you've got a brief. It doesn't make sense. Why are you not pushing back on the agency to say, guys, I don't understand what you want me to do, and then you still do it? We are having honest conversations.
So I can be a diva. I can definitely be a diver. I've been in this game long enough, and I've made enough content to be able to push back and people believe what I'm saying. Doesn't just sound like I'm trying to sound smart at another smart person. So a lot of the times it's like, they will. So my issue comes in where I can speak and push back and say, I don't want to make this like this because I know where you guys are going. Other people don't want to lose their job. People don't want to be seem like, hey, I told Pierre said he wants it like this and I said no to Pierre. He's never going to come back to me ever again. A lot of guys who are not as stable as me in this game, a lot of people who are also trying to creep into the game of monetizing their content would rather be quicker to try prove that I can do something even though I don't understand it than come to you and say I don't understand it. I will have another meeting. We will schedule another Zoom. Sorry to all the agencies with that noise, but if I didn't hear you, I want to hear you again. And I would hopefully like to be in that Zoom too with two people who I didn't mention, but they will be there to help me decipher this brief. And I think that's where it comes with the whole macro-micro thing. A lot of the macros will come back to you and say, hey, dude, I don't know what you're saying, or this doesn't align, can I do it like this? A lot of the micros are quicker to say, I'll do it, whatever you say, boss, please, and thank you, today.
So, hey, the apple, the tree, do you see? But, okay, fine. There's something to be said about the ideal, the North Star, the brand has a vision, and then the person who's going to help them reach Eureka, but not understanding, da-da-da. Bianca, you've worked on and seen many different forms of campaigns. What is the most successful route? What's the most effective route to success when building a campaign? And I speak this from the context of the client when briefing the agency to then brief the creators. What makes sense for it to be effective from a planning perspective for mutual benefit?
I think what's really worked in my experience, and granted, I didn't necessarily work directly on marketing campaigns, but what I did over the course of my time at TikTok was develop what we call program logic. And that is basically saying, you as a brand, what do you want your customers to feel? What do you want them to see? What do you want them to take away? And what action do you want them to do? Articulate those 4 principles into a document so that it's easily understandable. Then you get everybody in the room so that you're all aligned. Is that going to be our strategy as a brand? Is the agency aligned? Does that same communication and mentality exist then across all your other communication assets and platforms and channels? And what does that mean in terms of how you take that information and brief creators? In the program logic, it's then saying, as you're partnering with creators to be able to effectively deliver your communications in whichever channel it is, making sure that everybody's on the same page. You shouldn't have a creator confused about what they're needing to deliver. It should be very clear from the get-go. In fact, there should be opportunity to actually throw additional kind of tangible opportunities for the creator to be a little bit more flexible in terms of switching up brief number 2, brief number 3, brief number 4, because you're measuring and monitoring the effectiveness of post number 1. You're picking up information and insights from the engaged users on his channel that is telling you, actually, I love this, tell me more, or where can I buy it, right? And to your point about, creating content in the native environment, absolutely. We don't want people clicking out into a URL. Nobody does that. So there are great tools within any of the, platforms that you're using, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. You swipe up, there's, TikTok for Business. It has a multitude of different tools to be able to literally have the agility to switch up your campaign on the go. You're not tied into, a 1-month campaign where you're locked into that media buy. You can change things on the go. So there's flexibility from a partnership with the creator to change narratives, to switch up keywords, right? So how are you bringing in the keywords for your brand language and your product, value propositions that you want to land, so that he's able to mention, care or love or whatever those keywords are that exist both within your campaign as well as in the creator content. It's really just about seamless communication and developing a better way to be able to have everybody on the same page and the agility to actually get together and kind of tweak things as you go along in that journey. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. You answered it because I'm going to ask Anele Uguti, in real life, in this really high pressure, competitive environment we find ourselves in, especially as someone who's a brand custodian with people to report to and KPIs and LinkedIn posts to make about the success of your campaigns, how realistic is it to be able to plan to plan with all of these many different stakeholders now that are involved in one person delivering a effective content piece that's going to actually drive results?
I don't think it's that difficult. I think
Say it again. There are people who must hear you and believe in what you're saying.
It's not that hard. I think if you know that this is the person that you want to work with, bring everyone in a room. I don't let my agencies brief influencers actually on their own. I join all briefings and the brand will brief. We have our influencer marketing lead who's also here, and she leads that. And we're one of the only companies, I think one of the first companies to have an in-house influencer marketing lead who is also an influencer. So shout out to you, Tando.
Don't be shy, Tando.
I really think it's important to have the right people in the room at all times so that it doesn't feel like a top-down approach. It is collaborative. Bianca, you spoke about that, the importance of making the creator also like a co-creator of the brief. And we've started doing a lot of that, right? Like we have Donovan Goliath as one of our influencers on Dove Men Plus Care. And part of his role is to be a consultant. So it's not just briefs that are being sent out, but it's actually he's sharing his insights based on what he's learning on the go so that we can tailor-make briefs. Something that is also incredible that's coming about is tailor-made briefs for different influencers. Because obviously you want to reach different kinds of audiences, different kinds of people. It's not going to work for you to just, spray and, what is it? Spray and pray. Yeah, spray and pray. And just hope that something sticks and lands with everyone. It is important for us to have a tailored approach, a customized approach, I think, with each of the influencers. And then you spoke about something that I wanted to respond to. Okay, it's fine. But what I wanted to say now is, yes, I actually remember now, is that it's really important for influencers to not just see themselves as salespeople. You're not just a person that's selling products, right? You are a brand that stands for something. And so when people think of Primo, they think of funny videos, they think of something interesting. When people think of Anele, they think of beauty and how she shows up and her Dove campaigns on real beauty and all of that. And I think sometimes with influencers, with all due respect, it becomes
gloves are out.
No, with
those words
respectfully. No, I'm not even no gloves out. I think in the same way that I could never work for a competitor brand, like I work for this brand, and if I work for a competitor, it's because I have resigned. I think it's just respecting those relationships and standing for something, and also being very intentional about yourself and your time and which brands you want to align with. So if also you want to be in this space, then I think you need a vision board or something to say, this is what I want to stand for. I'm going to be a beauty influencer. These are the brands. These are the brands that I want to work with. And if it's not in line, it just means that things will take longer for you, which we all experience that all the time, because I'm in my bag. Like, this is my bag.
Girl.
I can't be working for a competitor. I can't even I'll see an ad, I'm like, oh, this is so funny, and I'll like it. I'll be like, oh, no, it's a competitor. I have to take that life back. You know what I mean? So I think it's just the same mentality. Like, you can't be in a space where you are not being intentional and you're not being mindful around who you are as a brand and what you want to stand for.
Okay, so with that, a Unilever stands for sustainability. A Unilever is about, reimagining the world and leaving a world behind for future generations. But not Primo. Primo, really funny guy, can help you reach an audience, but doesn't necessarily speak sustainability, doesn't necessarily speak Greenpeace. Yet, you need him, right? How do you guys reconcile that with yourselves, that the people we need to help reach our audience don't necessarily stand for what we stand for, but will be effective in the objective we need to achieve.
Gosh, you know what? I think
Yes,
I-
clap for me. That was demure.
you know, so the first thing is that Unilever is the corporation, right? And we manage the brands who have the influencers. So I want to speak about the brands. I want to make a distinction between Unilever, the corporation, and the brands. And I think a lot of the time when we are rigid about definitions around sustainability, or even rigid around definitions around beauty, there are people that we will exclude under the assumption that they actually don't stand for a specific thing, right? So one of the things that I think Dove has done really well is to broaden the definition of beauty by saying that beauty is actually accessible for anyone, regardless of your size, regardless of your skin tone, regardless of the texture of your hair. And I think even around sustainability, I love the fact that you mentioned earlier on that you have one phone that you use. You are taking your content in the same place every single day. So there's no carbon emissions. Like, there's a very creative way to actually drive now this whole thing around sustainability. That this is my workspace. I don't drive to work. I've been using the same phone since forever. I've been recycling this phone, and that in its own way is sustainable. And I think when you give the influencer a brief and they can draw from their personal life experiences, like you said earlier, and it's actually backed by something we have seen, you can talk about anything as an influencer, but you have to be intentional. And I don't think you have to be led by the nose, by the brand. No. If you know what you want to stand for and you stick by that, you can get any message, but it has to come from you. It has to be authentic to you, I think.
Jolene, you had something to add to that?
You raised an interesting point when you asked the question about audience. About audience. I think sometimes brands get stuck on the brand identity or who the influencer is, and they forget that the influencer is a conduit. You're not looking to work with the influencer. You're not going to meet your KPIs and your measurements because of the influencer. It's because of the audience. So is the brand a fit with the audience of the influencer?
Yo, say that again. Say that again.
The influencer is a conduit. You want to work with the audience. So when I always have a disclaimer when we present influencers for brands to select who they want to work with. One of the key, and it comes back to planning as well. So we use a number of tools. Sorry, Pierre, but humans is one of them. That we use when we select influencers. We can actually get a forecast in terms of what type of ROI we're going to get from specific influencers. But more importantly, when it comes to selecting an influencer or brand to select the influencers, the breakdown of the audience demographic. Like, where do they live? What language do they speak? Where are they from? I mean, we have so many influencers that have immigrated, but they still have South African audiences, so you could still work with them even if they're living in London.
Yeah, you just got to DHL the product to them, but
exactly. So there's all of these tools and access to information, and you can get all of that up front. And that's what brands should be looking at when they decide which influencer they're going to work with. Yes, there needs to be a brand fit, but I don't think they get too hung up on that. It's about the audiences.
Okay, it's getting hectic now. So before it goes to Mount Kilimanjaro, I want you guys to indicate to me, do we have questions? Do I bring it in now? Okay, there's one there. Well, okay, we're going to get busy, so I don't have to go to my 20th question. We're fine. So Primo, I'm giving you a chance to speak, and then we're opening up the floor. So can we get the microphones ready for those that are going to be roaming snare? Okay, go, Primo. Fight. Ding, 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 ding. Is that one dead? Do you want to check the other one?
Am I alive? There we
Yes.
go. So, Anele. So what I am going to say about this whole, it definitely ties into brand loyalty. I can't, a lot of the times I'm not establishing the relationship with the brand, I'm establishing the relationship with the agency. So it's not about favoring the brand. I can favor the brand all I want, but if this agency doesn't give me what I feel like I deserve within this brand, my loyalty has to go to someone else who's gonna at least fill my pocket.
Okay, so you're working with people, not companies.
That's the problem. A lot of the time there's a huge disconnect between working with you and working with the agency. There's a massive sense of I'm not a part of that team, so why should I give them that much type of thing? So unless they're gonna give me the money for that. Very few, I've worked with many of the biggest companies and brands in South Africa. Very few of them actually made me feel like I did something worthwhile. Very few of them. Very few of them made me feel like I was briefed at a level of respect. It feels like they have to dumb it down just because, oh, you're a pretty face. Primo, let me tell you this.
Pretty
okay?
face?
Don't, you know what I mean? Am I
I
not?
thought you're
Am I
funny.
lying? Sibu. And like you say, you're one of the only companies that heads up the briefing session. Just that's it, that's the fact. You're one of the only people that's actually there to make sure that the agency, that you guys and that the influencer are in a straight line. Very few people even do that. And now that puts us in a position where they can say, Primo advertised so-and-so beer, and then straight after he did so-and-so cider, they're against each other. Why would he do that? Because that agency treated me like nothing. When I actually engaged and actually liked this product. You know, can we name drop? No,
Don't do that.
Let's
We're
write it
honesty now.
Sharp.
This is
So
a level, a peak honesty. Don't go above.
and it's very hectic with alcohol. You know, it's the most hectic with alcohol because we feel so expendable with alcohol. We feel like if we mess up one post, they go into another guy. They definitely have the budget for it. They're gonna get someone else anyway. You know, so we don't feel like we are anything to you guys for us to feel like we must only save our likes for Dav.
Okay, so with
You know what I mean?
And it's a very important note because you are working with people at the end of the day, and I think the industry is such that the individuals in the companies, because we can have honest conversations, individuals in the companies are constantly thinking about their next. Just like influencers are thinking about their next, right? People's CVs stay updated. You see them on LinkedIn constantly showcasing themselves so that the next company that wants in on that is attracted to them. So think of it that way, that you're an individual, they're individuals. And that's where the relationship has to be a two-way street. It is that you have a way of working, so do they. And I think it's the responsibility of all the players in the value chain to really be conscious and mindful of that. Agencies are facing pressure. Clients are facing pressure. Content creators are facing pressures. Audiences are also facing pressures now. Our favorite content creators are beefing. Who am I siding with? Do I like this one? I can't comment on this one. So there's a lot of pressure going around, and I think that's why we're having these dialogues, so people can understand on every side of the spectrum, right? 30 seconds to say something, and then we go to questions from the floor, because there'll be a lot more to say.
So I want to apologize to the content creators.
Wow,
in the
say
room.
it again. Cameras, out.
Yeah, I do. I want to apologize to the content creators. I think we haven't always treated content creation with respect. And I speak on behalf of the entire brand teams that are represented in the room and also online. But, you know, I do think one of the things I like to do is to also find out what the content creator is passionate about. And what they are working on, so we can form a strategy also around that. And I think we should be doing more of that as brands, because that also helps to drive the believability, so that it's not just, oh, here's the brief. It's like, what are you working on? What does your next 6 months look like? How can we plug our brands into that as well? And I think we should all make that commitment as well, because we won't get the brand hopping that you're talking about. Because now it's more of a relationship, it's more of an exchange, and we support you, you support us.
So what I'm hearing in that is that it needs to form part of the overall brand strategy, because it can't just be, you can't end up looking like a box of Smarties, right? Because now Primo has a soccer camp he wants to do with kids in the hood, and then who's the other one? Linda Mtoba wants to do a fashion show. Now, do you stand for soccer, kids in the hood? Do you stand for fashion on this side? So I do believe there is something around crafting your brand strategy if influencers are an important channel for you to speak to those passion points as well, because you're not going to be able to do everything that they ask you to do, which is one of the disappointments that come with managing expectations, right? Influencers are expectant, brand wants to satisfy but can't because you follow global brand standards. You have guardrails, you have KPIs. You see this KPI one, I keep coming back to it because that's what you're measured on. That is what the effectiveness of what you are doing is measured on. So I do want us to dispel this myth of copious amounts of money and lots of time. We don't have time as agencies to convince the brands that what Primo wants makes sense to the overall brand strategy if the brand strategy doesn't accommodate that to begin with. So lots more to discuss, and I want to bring you guys into this conversation. Please, can the mic, Snare has the microphone, and your first contributor is right there next to you. Please introduce yourself, tell us what you do so we can understand where your question is coming from.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Hayley from Activate Influencer Marketing. We're an influencer marketing agency. So I've got two questions. My first one is for Ryan, but I'm going to put you on the spot a little, so maybe I can ask Anele a question while you think of the answer. So I really like looking at successful case studies of influencer campaigns globally and locally. So I just wanted to ask you if you could share, you don't need to share the brand specifically, but just a few case studies of really effective influencer campaigns you've seen or you've reported on, and what they did that made it stand out and work really well. And while you think about that, I've also noticed that when it comes to reporting, many agencies do it differently. And I've seen a few influencer agency reports, and they're very different. And I wondered, Anele, what do you look for in an influencer report? CPM, CPE, top comments, conversion, what you look for. Well, you can both answer both.
Okay, so actually it's, Anele, are you fine to go first? Yeah. Let's go with you.
I look for reach. That's the most important thing for me. Then engagement. I'll look at earned media value, where that can be quantified, because obviously we are taking these reports back to marketing directors who are like, okay, I reached 1 million people, what does that mean? So if you can give a numerical figure to say, you know, this reach actually amounts to an earned media value of, 2 million rand, that's super helpful. I also like to see brand sentiment. A lot of the time, and I think brand sentiment is a very powerful thing, and agencies tend to leave it out, because when brand sentiment goes wrong, all hell breaks loose, and we are in crisis management, nobody is sleeping. So people take for granted when brand sentiment is doing well, and I think that's something that you shouldn't be afraid to highlight, right? I look at top comments, and I also want to see top performing content creators, because those are the people that we want to continue to build relationships with.
And what do you value as a top comment? If someone is saying, Primo, that was so funny, versus, oh, I'm actually going to try that. Do you often see people speaking overtly in the comment section, declaring their intention to go and purchase what is being sold?
Yeah, we do see that, but I think for me it depends, right? Because what we've seen is with the celebs and the macros, they're not generally going to get a comment like that. It's like, oh, I want to go and try that. They will get the, oh, this looks beautiful, oh, your house is so nice, that kind of thing. And that's just the trend. But obviously with your micros and nanos, where the word of mouth is quite strong, and typically I know the nano that's posting, I went to high school with her, whatever the case is, people will say, hey girl, you know, where can I get that? So for me, I do look at it from the lens of what role the influencer is actually playing. I don't expect the same types of comments like across.
Cool, Ryan, over to you. The more successful campaign you've seen?
So to not get overly specific with a brand and a campaign, case studies I've read through, whether it's global or local, the ones where they start by talking about how they farmed an influencer from maybe an influencer marketing company or an influencer database, I found that the farming ones did worse than the ones where they hunted an influencer. Hunting an influencer is content relevant, brand resonating. Farming an influencer is where some of these influencer bureaus have asked a list of very specific questionnaires, and these influencers have answered those questionnaires, and then you go, that person says that they're into football. But the problem is that those influencers that are answering those questionnaires know that the more things they're into, the more briefs they get. That's hunting versus farming. So the campaigns where they state in the case study that they hunted the influencers versus farmed them, the message often resonates much stronger and the engagement rates are much higher if you're measuring on engagement or performance. So that's one metric I've seen. And the other one where there's actually a case that I looked at quite recently, and I don't want to state why for a bunch of reasons, but the influencer was central to the entire content idea. And when I looked at that case study, it was fascinating to see that I'd like to do that thing where you go, if I take this influencer out, does this campaign actually still stand? And funny enough, if it doesn't, that for me is a true influencer campaign. Sure. Not another brand ambassador that threw out your message as content. And I've looked at 3 case studies in the last couple of months where I take that person out and this campaign is dead. It's not, and there's all the there's location marketing, and there's performance, and there's incentivizing, and there's click-throughs, and there's promo discount codes. Take the influencer out and the campaign is dead. And that for me is the difference between the campaigns that really work and the ones where it's just part of an omni-channel and we did influencer.
Okay, I hear that. Next question.
Can we take, we've got 2 to go now, and then can we take another 2 more and then we're done?
I mean, it's my show,
Okay.
but...
I'm just looking at the time.
Okay, I guess. But I am aiming at ending at latest 5:15, 5:30. Is that fine with everyone in the room? Because we've got a lot of drinks to get through. Lots.
2 each.
And lots of food to get through. Okay?
2 each.
Cool.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ofentse Zulu. I'm a marketing trainee at Tiger Brands under brand team Snacks and Treats. So my question is for you, Primo. You mentioned something on agencies treating you otherwise offish, and you mentioned a certain industry, which was alcoholic industries. So for me, the question is, do you then, after you left, do an introspection of the whole campaign and say, what went wrong, and is it an agency issue or is it an industry issue, 1? And 2, if it is an agency issue, why are you then placing it on an industry at large?
Yeah, marketing trainees of today, they
So
ask hard questions.
Who the hell trained you, blood? So, I say this because I've worked with a different number of agencies, a whole lot of agencies, and I've also worked with a whole different host of brands who were very involved while the agency was there. I say this with specifically alcohol because I feel like because those budgets are so big, we are seen as expendable. We are seen as so replaceable. There's one brand that came to me and already their campaign wasn't aligned. The top line alignment was very tricky because they said luxury, and then when I made comedic content, they picked on other stuff. So I said, how? So rich people don't want to laugh. You know what I mean? So, you know, and in that sense, I felt like the way they treated my content, I needed to terminate my contract immediately, and that's what I did. I terminated before they paid me anything. I terminated before I flighted one video, and I deleted it before that 24-hour story was done because the criticisms, you could see that they're not focused on me and how I'm relating this message to their audience. They want what they want to see so badly that even if it's me saying it to my audience and even if these people do come through and buy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're just a model.
You know what I'm saying? And in that sense, I'm even nervous to start advertising certain things because I'm not luxury. You know what I'm saying? So I'm basing it and making it about agencies because I know that it's what the agency kind of chooses to. The same way they're saying hunting and farming. You come to me either because someone told you, we want Primo in this campaign because he's Primo and I know him from whatever, or we want Primo because he will actually sell our message properly. Those people weren't told that Primo's going to sell their message properly because then they wouldn't come to me in the first place if that's their feedback. I was replaced within 2 days by someone whose engagement was nowhere close to mine, even though I posted for less than 24 hours. So in that sense, it now says, what value do I have as a micro-influencer? Who am I? Why must I now focus my efforts on being so dope and accommodating to agencies who want to pay me way less than I'm worth, and I must give them the best work in a record amount of time?
Okay, so let's talk about the worth. How are you placing the rand value to the work that you do? How do you arrive at your rate card?
So mine specifically was not straight line. I had to start somewhere and build it up in accordance to competition and willingness of agencies and brands to pay me that much money. My first post, I just had to shoot into a barrel, and the first fish that came out was 5,000 rand, and that 5,000 rand was how much I was paid. Then from then on, the more complicated it got with in terms of specifics in brand messaging, what I can and cannot say, how much engagement they're looking for. Then I was able to tweak my price accordingly. If I go through something in PR that makes me more visible, my price is definitely going to go up because the engagement or the reach is already higher. Okay. You know, maybe not the engagement, but my reach is higher, and that's what you guys mostly aim for. So I know that if now I've just crossed 10,000 followers because now I'm an actor and I'm on Lobola Man on Netflix and I'm not just, I don't know if you guys heard that.
Drop it. Tell us. Wait. Advertise.
I'm kidding. But in that sense...
They know you there in Amsterdam.
You know, they do. Trust me. By name. And the fact that now I have a portion of an audience that comes not because I'm so witty and smart and communicate with this brand, but just because I'm the guy they saw there, it makes me liable for me to proportionally increase my price. Because obviously what you guys want is someone who is present and active with the audience same time. So there's a mixture of moving along with your achievements / your PR notoriety and how big you are, and also the willingness and obviously competitive price along. I've heard ridiculous numbers, and I feel like, why don't I charge that much for a post? Because I work way harder to make this post. All they have to do is pose, and that picture makes the same numbers, or whatever the case may be. But then that's not a direct comparison.
And what happens when the brand doesn't get the value that they thought they would get from you? Do you give them a credit note?
No. When you go to a restaurant and order 1,000 rand pasta, and they didn't pour aromat in that pasta, you're gonna pay 1,000 rand. You know, whether you didn't like the dish or not every dish is gonna come out perfect, especially from an objective standpoint in terms of marketing.
Okay, so, and that's one of the complicated things about this industry, right? That we haven't necessarily aligned on and agreed to. Uguti, there's benchmarks, we've spoken about that, but what governs the relationship beyond a contract that comes from brand and agency? What is the obligation of the influencer or content creator in terms of delivering that value, and what is the consequence around not achieving those KPIs that have been set out for you?
Yeah.
Can we please get to the next question in the meantime?
As a solution to what you said, a lot of the time it's because these things are short term. A lot of the time it's because there's very little alignment that you don't get it back. So if there's not a lot of alignment, extend the time frame that you will use to evaluate that person's performance. Because if there's no top line alignment and you guys have to report within 2 weeks, then don't use that person because that 2 weeks is going to go to waste. A lot of the time it's expected from us to pull out this beautiful idea that's going to get millions of people talking about your product. But the moment it gets to you, this is wrong, you said this, you said this, you said this.
Yeah, now we've wasted a whole week.
Yes, so it's a combination of how long you guys have you guys brief me in, and turnaround time of my product, of my content, and also alignment, and also
budget.
Yeah, budget.
Time. Next question.
Hello, Joe. I'm going to do my best to keep it short and sweet. There's been some incredible points.
But you're going to start with your name and what you do.
Because I keep losing my name. I think it's on the floor somewhere. It's outside. It's after 5. Some incredible points, I think, around the power of the brief, and it's something that on our side we're really passionate about.
But you're going to start with your name.
Greer. It's Greer.
Thank you. And where do you work?
Greer. I'm from Planet Media.
Lovely.
Yes, but G is good. I know it's a mouthful. So we're chatting about the power of the brief, and you're absolutely right. We need to distill all of this big jargon potentially into something that says, my brand has been silent for 7 years. Primo, I need you to help me tap into your audience. What works best for you to drive awareness? Is it one post? Is it a promo mailer? Is it a video? Is it a reel? Is it a conversation? And I think the other point is around the education and understanding of this space, both on client side and the upcoming creator side. We spoke about this last year, Joe, around do yourself a favor if you haven't already for the up-and-comings and understand the space. From a media perspective, when we push back and say, but you've only sent me one, you're giving me one post, like, why? Is because we're talking frequency, we're talking GRP languages, we're talking opportunities to hear, we're talking you need your billboard strategy up for 3 months to build that kind of awareness. Because if we start to strip it down and we look into the funnel conversation, which is a whole other rabbit hole we can leave for the next session, Ryan, is you're helping us achieve a specific goal in a specific time frame with a specific budget. And this requires us moving from transactions to collaboration. Sit in the room with us. Understand the job that we're trying to do because we need your insights. We need to understand what your audience wants. What are they asking? What video does best? What static does best? And then bringing that into the creator space is, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to be an expert? Do you want to be an influencer and reach is just your game? In which case, go from the car to the Dove to the Android to the whatever, because I might just need you for that short-term reach burst.
Yeah.
Do you want to create? And you're not fussed about the audiences. You just want to create really beautiful content for brands that they can use down the line, which really beautifully sits in that sort of UGC, authentic, but it's still a bit of a sexy brand vibe, right? Do you want to curate? Do you want to work on the next upcoming project with the brand? So I think for creators, it's understand your role, your intention, and your passion. And to Ryan's point, be sure about your passion because you love soccer now and then you love paddle and then you love this and that, and it's bloody confusing. It is. Because as much as, yes, we want to tap into your audience, you're partnering with us on our brand. You need to feel like me. You need to be sustainable. And there's absolutely then opportunities to have cool conversations about films in the same space with the same phone he's had for 3 years, and actually that is sustainable as heck. So I think there is a massive lack of understanding, and on client side is you're not booking a billboard, you're not launching a meta campaign, you're working with people.
Yeah.
You're working with humans, and they're going to give their own take on that, and you need to have that flexibility. And by the same token, you are being ingested into a broader channel plan, which means you have to evolve as well. So a video or a static that used to do well 3 years ago, what can you bring to the table now?
Yeah.
If TikTok, if Meta are evolving, Advantage Plus, all of these wonderful and sometimes not so wonderful opportunities, what are you doing to help us follow the audience? Because if your audience is big enough, I assume that you're following what they're interested in. So I think this really comes down to shift from, I want an influencer as a part of the campaign. What are your broader objectives? Why do you want an influencer? If you remove them from the campaign, is it still going to work, or does it hinge on them? Can they collaborate, or do they just need to create? And I think that's where these sort of holistic briefing sessions understand and agree on measurement and metrics, because reach for me in media might be very different for you elsewhere. How can we find a common ground? You know?
I don't know who hurt you, but thank you. It's giving Adele, you know, every time she goes through a breakup, record-breaking album. So that's, thank you for summarizing a lot of what we've said, and that's absolutely important, everything you said. And I just want to offer a thought. You know, The people who work in brands, the people who work in agencies, it's their 9 to 5 to be absolutely obsessed with the work that they do and the brands that they are in charge of. And they're getting paid their 30,000 Rand a month, if even. And then you get the influencer or content creator who's charging us, a 50,000 Rand to do 2-3 hours worth of ideation, another 3 or 4 hours worth of shooting, another 6 hours of editing, and then posting. Absolutely valuable. We do not discount that. But we're asking them now to come to the boardroom, to come sit with us during our brainstorm sessions. Then we're asking them to come into an alignment session. Then we're asking them to come into a briefing session. They don't have that understanding of how 9 to 5 works.
Who said?
I'm going to speak on this generally, right? Hey, Primo, let's get personal. You are incredibly busy, right? So now, we who are focused on brand X and our campaign, we're so obsessed with it with our project timelines. We are asking you to work as if you're always on this brand, but you've got other clients to satisfy as well. So it goes to planning, which is very difficult in our world these days, and we all have to do better on that. Otherwise, we're never going to get to a space where a Primo can carve out the same type of time as the brand custodians do. We're always going to have this tension between we want to bring you into the boardroom, but you don't have the time for us, and we now must pay you extra.
Yeah. But we also have teams. We also have my team members can sit in the meeting for me while I'm curating content for another brand, so that when I come back, they say, okay, Sharp, we actually went to an alignment meeting, and remember you did this last time? Do it like this time for these specific people. So don't underestimate what we will absorb from what you guys want to give us as 9 to 5ers. We want to hear these things. And if we do have a problem, trust me, we will ask someone. I don't know how many influencers, ever since I've name dropped that I've done brand and marketing communications at Vega and whatever the case may be, every influencer will come to me for this brand advice. Is this worth it? Does this happen? Can these people claim exclusivity and whatever the case may be? Don't underestimate the fact that they will go ask. Even if you gave them that 9 to 5 terminology that they don't understand, they will go to someone and say, okay, Sharp, listen, I want this 50,000. These people say they want it like this. What does this mean?
Okay.
We will do that. And I know it's hectic because a lot of the people who you guys would like to use are younger because they have all the money and they were willing to churn out all that content quick and whatever the case may be. They are the ones that are going to ask the most. The macros are going to be the ones that we want you guys to pull us in. We want to say, you know what, BP, try to work with me. And they told me exactly what they wanted in their boardroom.
Okay.
They didn't summarize and give me these whack points that I've seen on every other brief.
Okay.
Even if I won't make it personally, there's someone in my team who's going to be in that meeting and I can say, hey, dude, this is an alignment meeting. We'll meet after. You know, but so don't underestimate what we are willing and want to and the hunger for us to learn this industry. I know we're the babies. Agencies, brands, you guys have been here forever. Data Mang, Lona Ryan. All of you guys have been in this game for way longer. You guys have done this via TV, via radio, via out of home, via what. We coming in this new platform and saying, we're the babies. We just came here roughly 6 years ago as Facebookers, as Instagrammers, as Twitter people and whatever. But we are definitely willing to learn. We are your babies. Treat us like that. Be layman's.
Fair. Bring them in.
Well,
Next question. Can we also give some love to this side? So one more, last one on this side, and then we'll move to the other side, please.
Okay, and if we only take 2 more questions, we'll have enough time for an networking session outside, and you can ask whatever questions you didn't get to ask here. You can maybe ask the panelists when you see them outside.
Who said that? We're trying to drink.
Hi everyone, my name is Jane and I'm from Duma Collective.
Yes, tell them! Tell them! Please ask a clever question also. Do not embarrass us.
Too much pressure. So I work in the digital space and I've led a couple of influencer campaigns.
And you're really good at it, might I say.
Thank you. So I think it's easy to use the tools that we have to select the right influencers for attaining the right KPIs for the campaign, etc. But I think for me, the challenge comes through when an influencer, like a macro influencer, becomes a brand ambassador. So they're so associated with the brand. When you see a Primo, you'll think of Showmax or the Android phone, for instance. So the problem is when Primo's personal life then sort of sabotages the relationship with the brands. So, so the actions are not very demure, not very cutesy. I'm gonna throw in Mihlali, for instance. So she was trending. Everyone has an opinion about her life and her relationship and stuff, but everyone knows her, for instance, as the L'Oreal girl. So I wanna ask Anele, how does brand then navigate that?
Yo, good girl. I was waiting for you to land the plane, so I'm like, hey, where's this going? Yes, Anele, what happens when brand, yeah, when the brand stands for one thing and you believed in the person, and when you started the relationship, everything was lovely, but life happens and crisis comes, blah, blah, blah. We know there are documents, frameworks, but in real life, take us through a scenario where now you must decide whether you are sticking with this person or you're throwing them out with the bathwater.
It depends on the circumstances. I think that's a very difficult one because those are people's personal choices and there's no breach per se, like contractually. It's always easy when there's a clear breach and you can say, okay, you breached the contract, we are walking away.
Oh, I'm sure the line says, bring the brand into disrepute.
Yes. But is that, bringing the brand into disrepute? Because then it becomes debatable, even from a legal standpoint. Like, can you really say that her behavior brought the brand into disrepute? So we also want to make sure that we protect the brand by not cutting relationships too quickly with people. I think in some instances you kind of put it on ice and you allow the person to recover, then you go back to that relationship, especially if that person has been performing well over time. I think it's very unfair because there are certain instances where we have a crisis as a brand and the influencer has to absorb that. And now they are on the receiving end of the PR crisis and everyone is saying stuff in the comment section and they have to defend you as the brand. So I think it's important to have a balanced outlook and to not treat people as expendable, like we've been saying, to sit around a boardroom and to say, okay, we have a relationship with this person, how can we help them? Maybe we let things cool off, we come back to the relationship next year or the year after, but it's not, what I'd say, it's not cut and dry. And we don't want to make people feel that the minute you make a mistake, the brand is going to walk away from you.
Primo has spice to add. Go. Fast. Aromat, shush. Okay.
So the only thing I want to add to that is they also, a lot of brands / agencies don't always stipulate the relationship and nature of it in that sense to where they say you are now an ambassador. I've been in a lot of situations where they call me an ambassador, but they don't treat me like one. Jane, you know that personally. We worked on that one together. And in that sense, it then blurs the lines for everything else that I'm doing. Unless I am called an ambassador of this brand, and the contract when I sign it says an ambassador of Mang Mang, and I'm getting ambassador money, then I must watch myself in that sense. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we are lied to and say you're an ambassador and you are not. And I think also sometimes you just need to stress the importance of the relationship. Sometimes if it's very short term, I won't feel like an ambassador and I won't feel like I have to uphold the values that you guys have given me until after this project is done, these 3 videos are done.
Sure.
But then there'll be much more of an emphasis on it if you guys emphasize it, if the time, the length of the contract emphasizes it, and if it's stressed to the influencer that you know what, you're an ambassador and you have to look out for your image because any negativity will then fall to us, or whatever the case may be.
That's chili spice, bro. On an open wood. Go, Austin from RTC Studios, who is sponsoring content.
Primo, I just want to ask, what I've come to realize in the influencer space is the more you grow older and wiser you become, the more the more useless you become to the brands because you realize your value and then you start instilling, asking for what you're worth. How do you deal with that?
Great question, Ost.
We told you this is the Primo show. We're all here.
I said this. You guys thought I was joking.
Sorry, Bianca.
So the main thing is trying to establish longer relationships, because then you can show your value over a longer period of time. Normally they'll come to you with the short terms and you're going to say no. And now it's like, Primo's a diva. Primo thinks he's too big for this brand. No, it's not worth it. So your campaign selection then becomes more important, because you're going to have to try last on each campaign a lot longer. You're going to have to aim for the 6 months to 1 year, so that now other people can stipulate your value to say, in this 6 months that this brew was here, he wanted a lot, but it translated in numbers and people actually bought, and whatever the case may be, whatever happened. So when you are older and are in a position of, I want to say when now, they say familiarity breeds gratitude, familiarity
Breeds contempt.
breeds contempt and not gratitude. That's exactly what it is. Where the whole time you see me so much, you're getting tired of me, you're content, you're cool. It doesn't breed gratitude. You don't say, this guy actually knows what he's talking about, so I'll add that extra rand to get, or I'll add that extra month or little bit of time to ensure that.
Go, Jolene.
I just want to add to that. I think a trick that creators also, there's two things. There's brand fatigue. Like, people do get tired of seeing the same faces being used by the same brand.
Are we tired of the dubes on the clientele life ads yet, guys?
Ooh.
No, that is different though. That's different.
It's working.
Exactly.
It's working.
But so there's that, right? If creators being used too frequently by a number of brands, and also as a creator gets older, right? But there's an opportunity in that a creator has the opportunity to pivot. This is a word you guys haven't heard in a while, since COVID, where you can actually go onto another platform and you can start growing there. Because I think we always forget, brands forget, we as agencies forget, creators forget, we change as we go through life, right? If you're a female creator, when you were young, you were doing young beauty products, etc. Then you fell pregnant, then you were doing baby products, and then you become a momfluencer. Then child grows up, now what? Then you start a podcast. So there's all these other platforms.
Wow.
I didn't talk about a specific influencer.
You guys are shady. There was no shade there. You guys are the shady ones. Jolene, me, I'll protect you.
No, but there's all these other platforms and all these other opportunities. Creators can grow with it. So there should never be, and you should always see the signs of when there's a downward trend. You're a business as a creator. You should be you should have a strategy. You should see the downward trend in your brand. You should then plug in other business opportunities, pivot if you need to, jump on another platform and start telling another story. Because you as an individual, as we all do, we change. We go through different life cycles. You can either take your audience on those life cycles, or you can grow a new audience on a different platform.
Incredible.
You're touching me. Yo.
I've got Sne's very strict here. She's like looking at me with those eyes. I've got two more questions. Yeah, it's the Sne show. Question number 1 of 2.
Hi, my name is Fabrice. I'm a techpreneur. So this is more for Anele. I would like to know the size of the market. For me, from let's say Unilever.
I'm so sorry, Fabrice. Can you hold the microphone like this?
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, it's better. So I repeat again. So I'm a techpreneur. I'm more interested in the size of the market, especially for the influencer. So I would like to know how much of your budget you allocate to influencers compared to TV, radio, billboard, blah, blah, blah.
Fabrice, you. That's the question.
I would like to know myself, Fabrice.
Yeah, Anele, sorry, dear.
So the good news is a lot. We are taking a social first strategy, and everyone is excited about it. We have a lot to learn. The industry is still growing. We spoke about the fact that we are flying the plane as we build it. But it's more of a 40-60 split right now, and pretty soon it might be the other way around. Yeah.
Okay, so the opportunity is big. I think
Yeah,
that
with media.
the opportunity is big in the platform space. It's big for the creators. It's big for the analysts. So it's not all doom and gloom for television.
I think the people's like fear, right, from a brand perspective, is measuring ROI. But I think this is why these conversations are important, because we also have to be realistic. Because when we look at TV, we don't have some of the ROI demands that we are placing on influencers, right? So I think it's about being honest and really saying, okay, what really is ROI? So the more we have these conversations, the more we can start to strip away what is not ROI. And with your help, Ryan, maybe you can come in here as well in terms of the data, what really should we be looking at? But the size of prize is quite big.
I think we've covered that part around what we should be looking at, because it's really case dependent. But Anele, are you seeing return on investment where you are spending more on influencers than on the other traditional media platforms? We are. Categorically speaking, she said yes. Influencer marketing is effective for sales. And that is really why we're here, to prove that fact. Can I go to the last question and then I'll do closing remarks? Yes, from Tando, the influencer who works at Unilever. Are we sure we're going to take this question?
It's actually not a question, it's more commentary, right? I think just drawing on the conversation that has been had, we need to remember relationships, right? I think at the very core, the work that we do is based on relationships. So in the same way that Anele has pressure and Primo has pressure, the one common place that they come into is that they want to be valued and appreciated. And when we come to that common ground, we can then start to establish how that relationship looks. So when you think of a Unilever, we're human beings behind the corporation. And how we actually conduct ourselves is by being a human, right? And I think how to best explain this is that if Primo comes to me as Tando, and he wants to change up a couple of things, he wants to do different things, he can do that. But there's almost a barrier, which is the agency. What we then do with the fact that we're humans is open up that space. And right now, that's the kind of work that we're trying to do with myself and Anele. But that's a Tando and Anele thing. The next person who occupies the role might not have the same value or belief system.
So don't go.
Oh.
Grow, but don't go.
And the reason that I say this is because I'm trying to turn things on its head based on the person I am and what I want to see. And that's the way that I'm going to conduct business. That's why I'm going to open up a briefing session and be there with the agency. Even when I am presenting to like the actual brand with my agency, when there are questions presented to my agency and the brand is being a bit too harsh, has too many questions and is being, sort of combative, if I can put it that way, I defend my agency because there's a relationship that runs across here. It's the influencer, it's me, it's Anele, it's Unilever, it's the brand and the agency. There's many people involved, and if you're being human, that's how you manage the relationships. And I want to talk about like short-term campaigns versus longer-term campaigns. They are only born out of relationship. If I've given Primo 100K for 5 posts, but I need a 6th one to leverage a real-time kind of thing that's happening now or trending, if I don't have a relationship with Primo, I can't even ask him that. I shouldn't dare to, because he'll say no. He's like, I don't know you. You send me through your agency and you expect things to happen. I don't know you, so I'm not doing that for you. Whereas if I have a relationship with Primo, that means he's just like, you know what? I trust you and I believe in what you're doing, so I'm going to do it anyway. We'll talk about, well, not necessarily talk about the funds and how we're going to do it later, but they're just like, there's a way in which we are going to fill that gap, and both you and I are going to have a mutual beneficial relationship. So it's almost like I just wanted to comment on the fact that this is largely about relationship. I think when you remove everything, there's common place for both the corporation and the influencer, and relationship is the thing that basically builds that foundation.
We really appreciate that contribution. Thank you so much. We're going to make it very quick. So 30 seconds or in a tweet, can you just give us a closing remark that if everyone in this room forgets what you said today, this is the one thing they must remember about the role you play in this ecosystem of effective influencer marketing. Primo, you go first. Thank you. Because if someone else says something, you want to fight them. So let's start with you.
One.
Okay, so I guess we're going to go with Bianca first whilst we pass the mic.
I'm back, Emanyan.
I was giving you a chance, but go.
I think as a closing remark, I'd just like to say value and respect goes a long way. Showing and expressing value goes a long way. Don't be afraid to establish that relationship with the creator. We only stress money because it's the only value metric we have. We can't rely on our audiences because the audience will love you today and hate you tomorrow. So just know that when we're stressing money, it's not because we see you and we have big budgets and whatever the case may be. We know you guys can afford us. But that's also how we derive our own value. Is that when you are paid what you say I am worth, I can actually produce work. And it's a lot of intrinsic motivation. So please establish those relationships with your influencers. Don't be afraid to explain to them exactly what you guys want, especially when it's numbers heavy or engagement heavy or whatever the case may be. Say it's a short-term awareness campaign, please say that. If you want to build a long-term relationship, let's say that. Let's give each other space and time for feedback. And also explain, involve me, put me in the room. I want to get smarter the same way you guys want to exploit me as much as you guys can. And I say exploit with no negative connotations.
Thank you, Ofentse. Ryan.
For me, if we can get a better framework to understand what we want and what we want at the end and how we're going to backwards integrate that into the ask, and if a framework can exist that runs more systematically when it comes to dealing with people, and we can make that a language or a lexicon or a methodology that we all understand with the influencers, with the agencies, with the brands, while we should all be getting into a room, there is some process here that's broken. And I think it starts with the end in mind and is backwards integrated. And that comes from a clear brief, knowing what you're trying to achieve. I'm not seeing that. And so effectiveness in most of the campaigns that I touch is limited, lacking, and there's definitely a misunderstanding of what was wanted and what was delivered in metrics.
So we are taking a social first approach, and by social first, it's really about putting the community at the center, and we understand the gift of being brought into the communities that the content creators have created. And I think the beauty of content creation and content creators is that they've helped us as global brands to localize content and to deliver key messages in a relevant way and in a fast way. So it's definitely been effective, and it's something that we want to continue to grow.
Incredible. Thank you.
What Ryan said, have a framework, have an end in mind. What are you trying to achieve? And then use the right influences to achieve your objectives. Let the macros do the job of a macro. Let the micros do the job of a micros. Don't mix the two up because you're going to be disappointed with the results. Proper briefing session. It's crucial. A briefing document. We do briefing sessions with the brand there, with a briefing doc. Influencers get the briefing document afterwards. We answer questions that they have, and then build a tribe. Build a tribe that you use for your short-term campaigns, for quick little promos that you are running, to jump on quick and easy trends. We've managed to build tribes across various categories. It works because that then is a relationship that you've built. You know, and it drives brand love, and it drives brand trust.
Thank you. Bianca, take us home.
Short. Can you hear me? Yeah. Literally, never underestimate the value of building a community. That's your brand value. before anything else, before you're going to sell a product, if you build an army, an arsenal of people that are believing in your brand, they understand your business vision, they understand your business goals, and they go on the journey with you, it becomes so much easier to unlock opportunities down the line. Whether there's a crisis, whether there's a new product launch, whether there's a new test of a particular product taking to market that happens to have an issue with it, they'll be there to be your brand advocates throughout. So that's the one thing. And the second piece is partnership and collaboration across the board and being very strategic about your communications, whether it's with your partners, your agencies, and working with the influencers as well. The reality is platforms are going to change all the time. We don't know if TikTok's going to be around or any other platform for that matter. We know that there's a lot of changes with Google, with SEO. So it's about making sure that you're leveraging the communities and building them on every single platform and utilizing these creators to be able to help you build your customers and the base that you're going to be communicating to. And then the last thing is just making sure that it's a two-way conversation. You know, you spoke about the fact that we are human beings, keeping that communication going, whether it's in your mailers, your SMSs, granted don't spam people because we know that's an issue now, but keeping that communication loop going as a two-way conversation and also talking to your customers in the DMs. It's important. We never spoke about surprise and delight, I'm sorry, but I think that's something that a lot of brand marketers need to keep in the back of their minds. Never underestimate how impactful that could be, you know? Some of your best customers who are the ones that are highly engaged on the content that you're producing, whether organically on your own profile or from the creators' profiles, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being able to surprise and delight them with something. That becomes so valuable down the line. Okay, that's 4 points, not one, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Sneh wants to hijack my show. Go. I'm not done, but go. We can't hear you. Do you mind standing?
Hello, mic check,
yes,
mic
do you mind
check.
standing,
Hello.
please?
Hello, my name is Pierre Casuto. Nice to meet you all. Some of you I know already. The one thing I wanted to say and add is the gentleman over here asked about the size of the market. In South Africa, influencer marketing is less than 1% of digital marketing budget. Unilever, Tando, is an exception, not the rule. In the US, influencer marketing, 15 to 20% of marketing budgets. Very, very different in terms of what we're looking at in terms of scale and experience. And when you go there, still half the people you talk to don't know what they're doing either. So I think the one comment I want to say is we need to give ourselves a little bit of grace. We are all learning. Even the people that have been doing this for a very long time, creators are learning, marketers are learning. When marketers we speak to every day are doing 3 or 4 people's jobs, they can't get to their email and they're being asked to build relationships on top of that, it's really difficult. So we need to capacitate influencer marketing if we want to be good at it. We have to have people inside businesses who are focused on it, not just agencies, but inside the marketers. Because if you're asked to do billboards, TV, radio, then guess what? If you have to do influencers, you're also going to treat them like a billboard because you don't have time to do anything else. So I think we need to give ourselves a bit of grace and remember where we are in the journey and also be humble about it.
Incredible. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Sneh. That was a very, very impactful contribution. And I'm so glad you were able to add that because we are very hard on ourselves. I mean, we enter Effie Awards where we want to get told that we are effective in what we are doing. So yes, please do stop and reflect on what you're trying to do. By virtue of you being in this room, it already says you want to contribute positively and constructively to this industry. So a big thank you to every single contributor to this economy, because we wouldn't be having these conversations if you all weren't playing your roles. Equally to this platform. The Effies is a volunteer platform. A lot of us are really doing this as a labor of love, as a labor in the interest of this industry and growing it. And we want to see the efforts be effective. So that's why we are holding each other to certain standards to say that, is there value to the work we are pouring into this industry? So Gillian and Sneh want to come onto the stage to thank our panel. I want to really tell you guys honestly and openly and transparently, they're doing this for free. They have contributed their time and their knowledge and expertise to this conversation, this dialogue that is going into building a repository of knowledge. And we thank you for collaborating with us as FESA to help us fly this plane whilst it's in the air. I'm really buying time whilst these gifts make it to stage. So they're here. Okay, cool. If we had money, we would have hired a professional host, you know what I mean? But that's why I'm here. Am I doing great? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I do want my closing remarks really are just to say a big thank you. Thank you for employing us. Thank you for putting food on kids' tables. There are people who are buying textbooks, paying school fees out of being influencers and content creators. Don't take for granted how what you do as marketing custodians, as agencies, as data analysts, as content creators contributes to this economy in a very effective way. Thank you. I am grateful, and I'm handing over to my boss, Jillian. I am done.
Thank you so much. Oh my word. I honestly think there was a lot of talk about engagement, and this has honestly been the most engaging conversation I have ever listened to about influencer marketing. So thank you very much to all of you. I want to just end up on a huge thank you and to reiterate what you're talking about, value and respect. I value and respect all of you and your contributions and your incredible insights, and to all of you for coming. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you. We've got a little gift of appreciation for each of you. And join us outside. Carry on asking questions.